Deadly Retreat is quite an interesting film experience, as there's not a lot of substance to it. The narrative is very slow, but it's really charming. There are a lot of things about this I quite enjoyed, and I will expand on those, but I won't give away any spoilers. This was released possibly 2024, possibly 25. IMDb says 24, and Letterboxd says 2025, so I'm not 100% sure whether it's a new release, but either way, it's definitely, as far as I can tell, new in the UK, and it's just feature length. It's only about 45 minutes, maybe ever so slightly longer, and I don't mind it. One thing that I always love with films when they get it right is not going over the necessary length to tell the story. There are so many films that rely on padding and fluff because they think a longer film is a better film. Now, yes, 45-ish minutes is on the shorter side. In some criteria, it's not even feature length. For the most part, feature length is 40 minutes, but certain places do say that it's 50 minutes. In fact, I just had a look so I can provide some actual useful information, and the Oscars, the American Film Institute, and the British Film Institute all say 40 minutes, but apparently the Screen Actors Guild actually says 60 minutes. That's according to Wikipedia. I haven't fact-checked it beyond that, but that's quite interesting. But for the most part, it is a feature-length film, but I actually don't think they needed more time to tell the story. So I wanted to get that out of the way first, that yes, it's on the shorter side, but I actually think the duration is perfectly fine. And it's about various couples who go to stay in this cabin, and, well, as the title suggests, some potentially deadly things begin to happen. It is a comedy horror, and I can see the comedy elements. I didn't necessarily find it funny to my personal tastes, but I can identify aspects that I think, yeah, that could be funny, depending on somebody's tastes. Comedy obviously is being very subjective. The horror aspect is the bit where I feel like it really lets itself down. Obviously, comedy horrors are never terrifying. They're never that suspenseful, but I would say for about maybe 30 minutes, nothing happens. That's maybe a slight exaggeration. It might be just a little bit shorter than that. But for a good chunk of the film, there are no horror elements. There is no suspense. It's not a comedy or a horror for me. Again, some people might find it to be a comedy, but for me, it's not funny. And there's no horror element for a tremendous amount of time. But actually, I'd say in the last maybe 10-15 minutes, and I won't say what happens at the end, I won't give it away, but some horror elements do come in there. We get a few little jump scares and a little bit of dark humor, I guess, and there are some aspects of it that work quite well. And as I said, there's something about it, even though the narrative is lacking in any real horror elements for the most part, there's something about it that's so charming. And I think the reason for that is because of the characters. The characters are really likable. They feel really real. I did feel like nobody was acting. At no point did I feel like anybody was forcing their characters or that I didn't believe what they were saying. It felt natural. It felt real. It felt like I was observing their retreat. And obviously when it comes to horror films, being able to feel like you are there and believing the scenario, in my opinion at least, is key to feeling those horror elements, because if you feel removed from it, or if you don't believe what you're watching, it's harder to believe that the horror aspects are real or real within the context of the film, and if you don't believe in them, it's much harder to feel the scary elements. So I think that does work very much in the film's favour. The camera work's fine, the lighting's fine, they're obviously in quite a small space for a lot of it, but they made really good use of it. We do have scenes outdoors as well. And I came away from it feeling really satisfied. It was a sweet, charming, pleasant film. They're not words I was expecting to use for a horror-based film, but that's how I felt. So it may not be that scary. There may be significantly fewer horror elements than I would have liked, but we do get a tiny bit of suspense here and there. Nothing dramatic, but certainly there are a couple of elements there. The comedy, as I said, for me, it didn't really work, but I can see the comedy elements and I can see bits that could appeal to other people. And the performances are really good. The setting works really well. And I rather liked it. And I'm really surprised because, as I said, the horror aspect, and I watch it as a horror fan, is for the most part really lacking. And when it appears, it's done quite well. I think they get the blend of comedy and horror quite right, but it takes a very long time to get there. But even as we were trying to get there, part of me was thinking this is a really charming experience. So if you want to sit down and watch it and become fully immersed and follow their retreat and feel like you're there, you could do that. I also think it's really pleasant, good background company if you want something to watch while you're doing other things. So in general, I'd say Deadly Retreat was a pretty decent experience. And if you're curious, if you want to see what it's like, I'd say absolutely check it out. I found it to be rather sweet. And ultimately, while it didn't deliver the horror aspect that I was hoping for, I still thought it was a good experience. And with that in mind, I'm quite happy to recommend it.